welcome to the Fearless Money Management Podcast, where we empower women to take control of their finances. I'm Claire Strong, and today I'm chatting with Dawn Courtney, who's a financial professional, about how we can save for retirement. Hi, Dawn, how are you?
I'm great. How are you doing today, Claire? Great
I'm
meeting with you.
doing good. I'm just recovering from a really heavy cold, so you're going to have to bear with me. I don't know whether my senses are quite as sharp as they usually are, but I'm gonna make it through. And I'm actually really excited to have you on the podcast, Dawn, because today we're going to be talking about something that's super important, but before we get into the nitty-gritty of it all, just explain a little bit about you and introduce yourself to us, Dawn.
Absolutely. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me, Claire. And a little bit about myself. I actually never in a billion years thought I would wake up one day and find myself in finance. I went to school actually for health education and business. And after graduated, realized a lot more further education was needed for that. So I just ended up in sales because I always felt like salespeople are people that can help people make difficult decisions. But I loved helping people. And a good friend of mine introduced me into this industry, actually. And I really fell in love, with the ability to help others with financial education and literacy. I never really realized how, our society is really not set up for success. It's really unfortunate. We're globally, the US is 14th when it comes to financial education and literacy.
Wow.
We're supposed to be in the best place in the world, and we're not educating our
Gosh.
people about simple concepts about how money grows and about taxes and about the rule of 72 and how compounding interest can work for you instead of against you. And so I really fell in love with the mission of helping people and changing the way things are going, because unfortunately the majority of our financial services are just given to the top 5% of Americans because they can afford a financial professional. And so I fell in love with our mission and helping families through education. And that's kind of what brought me here. And now I'm so passionate about what we do and the ability to help change people's lives with simple concepts.
Well, I love that, Dawn. I love how passionate you are about helping others, particularly women, because here on the Fearless Finance podcast, we are especially focused on helping women and helping them to become financially free and literate. So I absolutely love how passionate you are. So first of all, can I just ask you, why is it so important for women to prioritize retirement savings particularly? And what challenges do we as women face?
There's definitely a lot of challenges in terms of the way things are going right now with our economy, for sure. I think a lot of people don't factor in inflation and the fact that, goods are going to keep continuously going up and up and up. There's been a lot of shifts in the way retirement's been done the last 50 to 100 years. Back in the day, companies used to take care of you where you would have a pension, which would take you through your full retirement. But unfortunately, nobody does pensions anymore. I think only like about 8% of Americans have pensions anymore. And so therefore, as individuals, as women, we really need to take it upon ourselves to set up our own personal retirement because people don't ever make a financial plan. They don't know how much money they're going to need in retirement. And so therefore, I think the lack of planning is one of the biggest problems that we have because a lot of times just the word finance in itself is a very foreign concept. People want to shy away from it because they don't understand it. And the beautiful thing is it's very simple. If we can show people not only what they're going to need in retirement, but the right strategies and solutions to get them there. It's not just about how much money you can grow, but it's about actual distribution of money. And so unfortunately, most people are only left with a 401k plan to get them through their retirement. And statistics have shown that this plan is not getting anyone to retirement. The gentleman that actually made the 401k, his name is Ted Benna. He wrote a book about all of this. He actually wrote a book about how the 401k is the worst retirement vehicle out there.
What?
And so I think, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So if Elon Musk came out and said, don't buy a Tesla, I think we should rethink buying a Tesla, right? So at the end of the day, that's the problem that we have is, the 401k came out in the 80s, and I'm not saying anything bad about a 401k, but it was never meant to be a sole retirement vehicle. It was meant to be a supplemental retirement vehicle. But unfortunately, we have no more pensions. Social Security is most likely going to be gone by 2034. Let's cross our fingers that that changes. But if all we're left with a sole retirement vehicle of a 401k, which is a major reason a lot of women are struggling to retire, because on average, most 401ks only about $182,000 in a 401k when someone's going to retire in between the ages of 60 and 69. Now, how long can anyone survive in retirement? We're living longer. 30 years of retirement with 182,000. It's actually virtually impossible. So that's a lot of the issues that we're having with people being able to retire.
As it relates to women in particular, I'm just thinking, Dawn, I'm listening to what you're saying. We also have to factor in things like still we're very often the caregivers. So either we're looking after children, so we're taking career breaks, or we're looking after older parents. And it does still fall to women a lot of the time. So, is that a disadvantage for us? I mean, I'm guessing it probably is, that we simply don't necessarily have as many work years because we have to sacrifice a lot of our time to go into caregiving.
That's definitely a factor for sure. Most women, have struggled to prepare for retirement. They struggle for college funds for their kids. It's hard for them to even save for emergency funds. I mean, it's really unfortunate that we are one step away from a disaster, and that puts us straight into a financial hardship. And you're absolutely right. Your health and your finances are very correlated. If your health doesn't go well, your finances can be affected, and vice versa. So, what I like to say is, in terms of if we could show people how to invest wisely into products and services where they're not going to lose any money, products and services where they have access to this money if and when that they need it. Because unfortunately, with a lot of the plans out there, you can't touch it. It's not liquid. So, if an emergency happens, you can't touch it. If 59 and a half rule with a 401k, if you need to touch it, you're penalized by the government. And so I think if we can show people how to invest in a better way where they're not going to lose any money, because that's the problem, is a lot of these accounts out there, you're making money when the market goes up, but when the market goes down, what happens? You're losing your money. So, not a really great way to invest, in my opinion, because you're just simply doing this yo-yo effect all the time. So, personally, if we can show women how to invest a little safer and also protect their lives, along the same way, I think we can make a big difference in their retirement.
Well, why don't we follow along that path right now? You mentioned investing there. What sort of investment options are available to us? And, which, especially if we're new to investing, like where do we start?
Sure. Traditionally, most people just go to their employer, and that's how they figure their employer is going to take care of them, or the government, right? Which, I'm not sure, how well that's really working out for the majority of Americans. But some of the plans that we offer, such as, cash value life insurance and things like that, where not only it can protect your life with living benefits and things like that, but it can also provide you with tax-free retirement. We also have to remember, 401ks are heavily taxable when you go to retire. You're literally growing your nest egg for years and years and years. And then you're like, oh, Uncle Sam, it's time to go retire. And then they're saying, okay, they're licking their lips over there. And they're like, okay, it's time for me to get my federal, my state taxes. And they're going to take a quarter of your retirement away from you. So if we can really show avenues for women to be able to invest, where number one, they don't lose a single penny of their principal. They can get a better rate of return, 8 to 15% rate of return. It can also protect their health. That's another big thing. If and when something happens, they can pull money. It's liquid, so they have access to it. And of course, it's 100% tax free when you go to retire. The problem is taxes and you losing money at the end of the day. So if we can just show people how to invest in a better way, it can really change the trajectory of the fact that they may have to step away from work to take care of family or even their children.
How do we know how much to save? That's the other thing. I'm listening to what you're saying, Dawn. I'm like, okay, so you're really providing some great advice and tips here. But like, how much should we be saving in the first place? Is there a general rule of thumb as it relates to our retirement savings?
Age factor is a big difference. If you're
Mhm.
someone that's in your 40s or older and you're just starting to save, you're going to need to start saving a heck of a lot more money,
Yeah.
because you have a shorter period of time for your money to compound and double. If you start these things at, in your 20s, you have 40 years to invest into this account so it can really have that uninterrupted compounding interest and really grow and grow and grow. Because but unfortunately, it's probably not one answer for everyone, because it really depends on where you're at, how much you can start saving. But I think the biggest thing is to start early. The earlier you start, the better it's going to be for you. A lot of people in their 20s, they don't want it. They don't think, oh, I got plenty of time. But guess what? They start thinking about it in their 40s, and yeah, you can get started, but you're going to have to put a lot more fuel in that engine for it to get you to that retirement at 60 or 65. And that's why, unfortunately, people aren't being able to retire until their mid 70s, because the 401k is not getting them there. Most of the time they have no other investments, or people leave a job and then they pull all their 401k money out. And you get penalized for that as well. And so another thing that we can do is we can help people take the 401ks. Nobody stays with a job for long periods of time anymore. It's pretty rare. When I onboard someone for our company and they've been somewhere for 18 years, I'm like, wow, that's like unheard of. And so
Yes.
people have lots of their 401k money just sitting out there, in a dormant account, if they're not investing in it anymore.
Hmm.
A lot of times those accounts can just simply eat themselves alive. There's tons of fees and things that are, it's not just sitting there and they're just making it grow and investing it on their own. They're charging you for that. So it can eat your principal up alive. And so another huge thing that we do is we can move that money to a place where it can, we like to call it a grip on your retirement, a GRIPP, because, and what that means is an acronym. It means guarantees, rate of return. I is for index growth strategies, where it can grow index like an S&P 500 or something like
Hmm.
that. P, potential bonuses. A lot of these companies are fighting to grow your money, because guess what? We have the biggest wealth transfer going on with the baby boomers about to retire. And so, and then of course, potential bonuses, some, just depending on what state you're in, a lot of these companies are offering huge bonuses. So you can take something like $200,000 and you could get it into the millions by someone gets to retire. And we can actually create a pension for that specific client so they can have an income for life. And so essentially, our golden years right now are becoming our stressful years. And so if we can take this money exponentially, have it grow with uninterrupted compounding interest, we can really change the trajectory of how that retirement looks for a woman.
How important do you think it is for women to get professional financial advice? So maybe come to someone like you, Dawn, for example, as opposed to us trying to, work it all out on our own.
Unfortunately, the way the financial industry has worked for the last 50 to 100 years is that traditionally most financial brokerages out there, they charge fees and services to their clients. And so the more money they manage, the more money they make, as the financial professional, right? Which a lot of times, a lot of financial professionals, they have restrictions. They can't even sit down with you and help you with a financial plan unless you have $250,000 liquid assets sitting in the bank, or even sometimes $1 million liquid asset sitting in the bank. And so therefore, the majority of our middle class is completely overlooked when it comes to financial education and literacy. As we mentioned, they don't teach this stuff in schools. We actually had a client who had about $800,000, and he was trying to go to these professionals. I mean, that's 800,000. That's not a million, but it's still a big chunk of money. And nobody would help him because he didn't have $1 million. So, the beautiful thing about what we do is our mission is helping everyone, because we firmly believe it doesn't matter if you make $50,000 a year, $1 billion a year. You deserve this financial education to change the trajectory of your family and your lives. If we can get you on track, we can help create generational wealth. So every generation is richer and richer, and essentially like what the Rockefellers have done. And so how we can do that is that starts from educating the parents, then they can teach their kids and so on and so forth. But you're absolutely right. That's why I love what we do is I help everyday individuals through this financial education to get their families on track so they can change their last names forever. And unfortunately, most financial professionals out there don't do that. We actually don't charge our clients a single penny for our services. We are partnered with amazing companies, over 25 Fortune 500 companies, and we essentially sit with our clients, assess what their goals and needs are, set them up with the right company or companies that's the best fit for them, and the companies pay us. So it makes it very feasible for the everyday individual to get the education that they need to get them where they need to go for their retirement goals. And of course, we talk to every individual about what those retirement goals are so we can make sure to help get them on track towards those.
What if we did want to try and navigate our retirement savings on our own? Are there good apps out there, for example, that you would recommend, or websites, or just kind of resources out there that could kind of, if we wanted to do it on our own, Dawn, could help us a little bit?
Doug Andrews is an amazing financial professional. He actually joined our company not too long ago. He's been in the industry, lots of YouTube stuff on him. He's an amazing resource to kind of learn about different ways to save. But other than that, we definitely have a lot of resources that we're working on getting put on the website and everything like that. But I think just learning about some simple concepts are really helpful, like, how money grows and about taxes and about, the rule of 72 and compounding interest. Those are pretty much the 4 things that we really want to teach each and every client of ours, so they understand where their money is and how we could change that and maybe make it grow a lot better for them so they can reach those retirement goals.
Okay, I've got to ask you about the rule of 72 because I am a finance novice here. This podcast really was designed for me. So I know you've mentioned that a couple of times. I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm sure I should know what this is, but I don't. So explain a little bit more about that.
Absolutely. So Albert Einstein actually came up with this. He said, the rule of 72 is the 8th wonder of the world. And unless you learn how to make your money grow for you, you're going to be working for money for the rest of your life. Okay. And so the whole idea is you're going to divide 72 divided by an interest rate. And that's going to tell you how many years it's going to take for your money to double. So just for a fun little thing, do you know what your bank gives you when it comes, you just put your money in the bank? Do you know what kind of an interest rate they give you in your bank?
I don't. I'm with Wells Fargo. So would you know?
Okay, I have Wells Fargo as well. It's probably 0.035% rate of return in your bank account.
Oh, wow.
And so if you divided, and I don't know the exact number, so bear with, but if you divide 72 divided by 0.035, it's going to take you 2,000 plus years for your money to double if you just leave it in the bank. Okay.
Okay.
So I don't think we have that much time, right?
Even if you can, I know people are living longer, Dawn, but maybe not quite 2,000 years yet. Okay. So no. Must be a better option.
So 1% rate of return, 1 into 72 years for your money to double. So even if you're a 1-year-old child, you still don't have 72 years for your money to double. Now, you could do a high yield savings account, which will give you 4%. That'll fight inflation, but you're not really going to go any above it. That'll probably take you like 12 years or something. But if you can get closer to a 10% rate of return, it's going to take you 7.2 years for your money to double. So if we can get our clients into a program where they can get somewhere from an 8 to 15% rate of return, their money will exponentially double a lot quicker so they can get to and reach their financial goals.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible because so I'm in that category of women who haven't saved yet. I haven't really put anything to my retirement yet because, as I'm sure lots of our listeners can relate, life happens. We get divorced. In my case, I moved countries 3 times. I had to restart my career. And so all of that instability has meant that I'm not where I need to be retirement wise and savings wise. And so it's really encouraging to hear from a professional like yourself, Dawn, that there is light at the end of the tunnel and that, as long as you're getting the right advice and maybe thinking a little creatively, you can still create a comfortable retirement for yourselves. I love that. The other thing I wanted to ask you, women tend to live on average longer than men. So how does that impact us as it relates to retirement savings?
We definitely have to put into account that we're most likely going to live a heck of a lot longer. And so we need to save a lot more money. A lot of these amazing services we offer, the cool thing is that it will plan for 30 years of retirement, but even if you live longer than 30 years, you still have money that's compounding and growing and growing and growing. It's not just about how much money you have in retirement, it's about the distribution of the money in retirement. So, in a 401k, if you need $5 million for retirement, which we do this calculations with our people all the time, what's their financial independence number? If we know how much money you're going to need in retirement, we can really place a plan in place to help get you there. But if in a 401k, you need that money to be able to retire. And remember, you're being taxed a ton on that money. But if we could set something up for our clients where it's going to keep growing and building and compounding even through your retirement, you're never going to run out of money in retirement. We just need to make sure to look at your retirement goals, set up the plan that fits you, whether it be one product or two products, just depending on ages and health and things like that. And half of the time with our clients, we're helping even double or triple what they're even thinking they'll be able to have in retirement. So,
Oh my gosh. Well, that gives me hope. I'm really pleased to hear this. What are some of the common pitfalls that you hear, though, Dawn? Because you must, when talking with your clients, especially your female clients, what are the common mistakes that you hear women making?
I don't know if it's necessarily mistakes, but I just think probably some pitfalls is that, we don't make as much money, even though they want to say that they're figuring that out. But, at the end of the day, a lot of times women aren't making as much money. So if you're not making enough money, you can't save for your future. And if you can't save for your future, then you can't even invest into these things. Then it's kind of hard to get things moving and rolling when you don't have any fuel to put in the engine. So I think probably, I work with a lot of women on the side that have a side, work with us and they have their full-time job. And, probably a pitfall I would think is just having the ability to have the money to save. Because women are struggling to make more money, but that's a big pitfall. So I think learning how to budget and save, or hey, women entrepreneurs, get out there, start with a side hustle, because that is definitely going to help you be able to get rid of that 9 to 5 kind of job and be able to really exponentially grow your retirement. Just the ability to be able to save more money and things like that. Um, but yeah, it is a struggle for sure. If someone doesn't have the money to start saving, all we can do is maybe redirect how they're saving it so we can put them in a better plan. And then, obviously meet with them every single year to make sure they're reaching those goals and how we can help expedite that as the years go on, for sure.
Okay, and even if you haven't got a lot of money starting out, you still think it's important to make a start at the very least, Dawn?
Absolutely. You've got to start somewhere. You've got to start somewhere. If you could start saving, $100. I mean, obviously age is a factor, but if you can start saving something, set up an account for yourself. Our accounts have ranges as well. So, where, here's where you're going to start, and we want to make sure to set it up for where it's a good starting place. But we always tell our clients, overfund these accounts. You get that tax return, throw it in there. You've got, extra money, birthday money, throw it in there, because the cool thing is you have a range to start somewhere, but being able to really just start investing in these things over time so you can reach those retirement goals.
I love that. And, we speak a lot about budgeting on this podcast, but with regards to an emergency fund and how it relates to our savings and our retirement savings, why is having an emergency fund so crucial when it relates to retirement, Dawn?
It's so important. Okay. We see this all the time. Someone is one step away from an emergency that will put them in financial hardship. And so
Yeah.
emergency funds are super important. You should always try and have 3 to 6 months liquid cash sitting in the bank, in a savings account as a just in case. Obviously, because if something does happen, this is where people start cashing out their 401ks. This is where people make bad decisions with their money because they're in a bind, right? So, not only do we want to help our clients make sure they set up emergency funds, but also put them in accounts where their money is liquid that they can touch. And have some access to that. And so there's kind of two ways about it, right? Definitely you want to work on that emergency fund, but you don't want to keep all of your money just in the bank because, as we mentioned, with inflation, and all of these things, just by leaving your money in the bank, your money is going to be devalued every single year. So you don't want to keep it all in the bank because you're not going to have any growth potential. Essentially, your money will be devaluing every year. But we want to basically have that money in that emergency fund as protection. When your tires go out, your water heater, whatever it is, you want to make sure to
Yeah.
have that money so you're not straight up into financial hardship. This is where bankruptcy comes in. A lot of women, this is actually a good thing, a statistic that I just heard, that after their husbands die, 6 months later, they are filing bankruptcy. So, yeah, yes. And so women really do need to make sure that they have that cushion. So once their husbands, whatever happens, that they have that. And so what I love about the accounts we have is you can still touch your money as well. It's not locked up somewhere where you can't touch it or be penalized if you need to use it.
Got it. And just on a final note, Dawn, because I could talk to you about this all day because it's clearly such an in-depth and important topic for us to be discussing. But what key advice would you leave women who are listening to this with regarding retirement planning?
Yes, I would definitely, look into different ways of investing. Obviously, most people just go to a bank for their financial education and their financial advice, and it's probably the worst place you can go. Banks actually don't really have money. It's kind of they'll lend it to you, but they're going to charge you crazy interest rates for it. I definitely recommend women look into infinite banking strategies, look into different ways to invest. And of course, we can always show them how to do so, where you're not going to be heavily taxed as you go through retirement. Looking for some tax advantage strategies that are going to be 100% tax free when you go to retire is a really, really big deal. And also finding ways to invest where you're never going to lose a penny. Warren Buffett actually said there's 2 rules about money. Number 1, don't lose any money. And number 2, always listen to rule number 1. And so I think it's so I think it's a really good way to show people how to invest differently so
Yeah.
they're not losing their principal and with tax advantage strategies. So you're not being taxed crazy when you go to retire.
Well, Dawn, I really appreciate this, and I'm sure all our listeners who are, interested in planning for their retirement or who have already started along the retirement savings journey would have got a lot out of today's episode. If anybody wants to contact Dawn direct, we will leave all Dawn's contact details in the show notes, and we always love hearing from you guys at home. Let us know, your retirement savings journey. Have you started planning for retirement yet? How are you saving? Is it working? Share some tips with us. We'd love to hear from you. And with that brings us to the end of today's episode of Fearless Money Management. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, and leave a review because your support helps us to reach even more amazing women on their journey to financial freedom. Bye for now.